if we are designing and we are catering for um, things that helps us work better or design better for touch screens, it's also really important to know what devices relative to these touch screens you're designing for. So who uses small screens and touch surfaces? Um, we have 60% of web traffic come from mobile devices, 92% of internet users access the internet using the mobile phone, and over 4 billion active users of mobile internet approximately. What this says basically is that almost every small screen or a touch surface per se. So when we design for touch surfaces, we tend to cater for almost everybody who accesses the internet. What are the opportunities and advantages involved in designing for smaller screens and touch surfaces? Um, if you're going to categorize this falls under two major categories, which is um, good user experience and high demand for the skill. So if you're really good at designing for small surfaces, this is probably because you really understand of the user experience behind using small screens. And because of that, you tend to maybe get a better job and all that. Um, we see that on good user experience, small surfaces are accessible to a large and growing audience. So you want to make sure um, you're catering for a large number of users while designing. Um, it also gives you the ability to explore gestures and motions in touch surfaces. So gestures and motions also do have the advantages they play um, when it comes to interaction or engaging a user. And designing for small surfaces or touch screens or touch surfaces gives you this ability to use um, these gestures and motions to your advantage. You also need to um, take note of speed and performance. It's known that the mobile device is not as fast as a desktop device or a bigger device, and so you need to be able to design specifically for these screens or for these sizes so that you don't take the designs for the performance of a larger screen and use it for the smaller screens. It's going to create not as good experience as what it is originally made for, which is for larger screens and all. So high demand for skills. There is a high demand for mobile app designers, responsive web designers, AR and VR designers, and also mobile game designers. So here we can see there are definitely a lot of opportunities and advantages when it comes to improving your skill or getting better in designing for small surfaces. Um, there is also something called the mobile first design approach. I'm very sure a lot of you guys know this, and what it basically means is um, it involves designing a mobile version of the desktop site first and then adapting to a larger screen. And there are also some things you could consider while designing for mobile first, right? Designing for mobile first definitely comes as a result of a predefined thought, which basically falls under maybe what's best for the business. So maybe you've taken out um, your research and you find out that the target audience are people who are closely attached to their mobile phones, or the solution you're trying to design for is best for people who use their mobile phone or people who can easily access the solution, maybe on the move or something using their mobile phones. So what's best for the user or what's best for the business, simplifying designs when there is a case of which you want to make the designs as simple as possible. And maybe there are not a lot of information, you might want to consider a mobile first approach and later scale up to a larger size or a larger screen. Increasing mobile usage, we all, just like I've said earlier, we all know that um, the number of users on mobile devices, the number of users who access the internet through mobile devices are growing really fast, and we are all aware of the next billion users, which are the next generation of the internet users. Most of these people access the internet through a mobile phone or a mobile device. So what are the challenges and design consideration for designing for smaller screens and touch surfaces? So we have a few of them. Limited screen size. This is a challenge when designing for a smaller screen. Obviously the screens are smaller and you need to prioritize the content and ensure that the most critical informations are displayed. You also want to take into consideration the legibility, sorry, which is basically you have to consider your font size, the contrast from your fonts to its background, and also line spacing, just to avoid clustering in your design. You want to also take note of connectivity, speed, and performance, knowing that the mobile device tends to be a little slower than a larger device. So you want to take care of these states, right? So when there is no internet connection on your mobile app, you want to be able to inform the user. When the user takes an action and it's taking some time to respond, you also want to let the user know and create some kind of loading effects or something to just make the user stay engaged and not feel like the app just hang or something like that. So navigation, you also want to use intuitive navigation techniques such as slider menus or drop-down menus. You want to make your navigation as simple and precise as possible. You have also your input methods. You want to consider input methods available on the device. Is the user accessing it directly completely through a touch screen, or there's going to be a keyboard? And for what audience? Even for the input field itself, you want to be able to know what kind of audience are going to be feeding their data through this input field. You want to be able to cater for those kind of audience. And also the layout, you want to be able to use proper white space margins and padding. This is a common thing I find in people who are pretty new in the design field. They find it really difficult to really understand what is the right spacing to use, the proper use of white space, proper use of margin and padding. And it's totally understandable, but it's something you really need to improve on when considering designing for small screens. So what are some best practices when designing for mobile experience? Number one, call to action buttons should place front and center, just for easy accessibility. Navigation menus should be short and simple. Yeah, I've used some mobile app where you get lost a couple of times before you really understand what's going on. And this is because the navigation menus are not really self-explanatory. They are not really as simple as it should be. You might also want to consider designing for both directions. A phone might be held, right? Okay. I thought I was supposed to share my video. I totally forgot myself.
Yes, you listening? We can hear you loud and clear. We can see your screen. Please, if it's comfortable with you, I'm sorry, okay with you, please, you can share your video.
Okay. Let me try that. I don't know why you guys are insisting to see my ugly face, but it's fine. But it's okay.
It's fine.
So yeah, I want to believe you guys can see me right now.
We can see your fine face.
Oh, you're making me blush. Thank you very much. Let's go back to the main focus for today. So we're talking about best practices for when designing for smaller screens. I mean, I want to consider designing for both direction. If one is held, be it the landscape or portrait, and You would also want to use gestures that users already do, like you want to use gestures that users already do, like tapping and swiping. So concepts to consider when designing for touch screens. So there are two major concepts to consider when designing for touch screens. These concepts are gestures and motion. I'm very sure we are very familiar with this. And gestures is just a method of interaction a user has with information on their device using touch. And motion is more like an animated transition that lets a user switch states or pages with ease. So with gestures, we have the four major categories of gestures, which are the swipe, the tap, drag, and pinch. And for motions, motion is just a way animated page design elements that focuses on user attention. I'm very sure you guys know about this. For example, if like you flip a page, for instance, if you've ever used like a page on the internet and you flip a page and there's this flip transition on the page, that is an so if you have an iPhone and maybe you tap and hold on the iPhone's homepage and you see the icons dancing and shaking their hands, just know that is an example of motion. So these things really help to explain some certain actions with effects, just so that the users can stay engaged and keep the app very interactive. So a few things to keep in mind. To ensure your designs are accessible when it comes to gestures and mobile and motion. Sorry, always provide alternative options to using gestures. I used an app recently, I think last week, and it was like a list of items on the app, and there was like three dots. There was like three dots at the end of each of these list items. I kept tapping on that three dots. I kept tapping on it. It wasn't bringing out any menu like view, edit, or delete, the regular options we know. Only for me to just it was not even deliberate, mistakenly slide, and it did that swipe gesture thing where you then get the edit, delete, and view, for instance. So that isn't really a best practice. I know whoever did that app wanted to maybe utilize space and try to make that particular list item accessible through only a swipe gesture, which is really not good. You want to also create alternative for the regular way people know how to interact with your app. So secondly, think critically about the speed and duration of your motion. You don't want to allow a user click on an item and it's taking forever to finish animating or something. You want to make it really swift and fast. Then you want to also give users the ability to turn off a motion. So you want to give users that free hand to turn off the motion if it's distracting, just like the way we have the autoplay feature on YouTube, where you can just turn it off. So you want to give users the ability to turn that off. And so I think this is where you're going to put a stop to what we have here. And I would like to take some of your questions from here. And at the end of this, I would also want to ask my own questions so that you guys can take some of my money. So I hope you guys understood some of these things. And if you do have any question, please go ahead and ask now.
Okay, so Femi, can everyone hear me? I kind of switched my router. Okay.
Yeah, we can
So
hear you.
okay, so thank you for the session. Thank you for walking us through this topic. We are so grateful, Femi. So right now, you said you're ready to like take questions, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, that's fine. So I already wrote down some questions from people people that ask. But first of all, I would like everyone to first ask their questions here before I will go ahead to ask those other questions. So, Leop, I can see your hand up. Do you have any question to ask?
Yes. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Okay.
Hi, good evening.
I have one question. You made mention that when you're designing, you have to make sure that when the user should, let's say, click a particular icon, it should be fast. Is it the job of the designer to determine how fast an icon, if it's being clicked, how fast it's being executed? I don't know if you understand my question. Is it the designer that determines how fast that icon is executed, or the front end developer?
Are you talking about the animation or like the load time or like the response time when you click on something?
The response time.
The response time is definitely not the designer, but what I was referring to at that point in time was like animations and transitions, right? So when you're making an animation, let's say you put a transition on a page, and maybe when a user clicks to go to the next page, it's like slides out of the page and the next page comes in, for instance. So animations like that are for the designers to take care of, where you are the one who sets the timer in which those animations and those motions will take place. But for the response time, it's definitely a developer's work to make sure the app is as fast as possible.
Okay,
I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Femi. Thank you, Femi, for answering Luke's question. First of all, I forgot to tell us to drop our emojis for Femi. Let's celebrate Femi in the pegs also, please, before we progress. I can see someone else's hand up. Please, let's drop our emojis. Thank you, Julia. I can see you guys dropping your emojis. Thank you so much, Femi. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, I can see Damilare. Is that you? I can see your hand up.
Hello, good evening.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
So okay, yeah, I can hear you. Do you have any question?
Yeah. I want to ask a question. John, most
Okay,
times
please.
yeah. Can I ask you? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. I want to ask a quick question on the mobile view. We have for mobile apps and for mobile web. So I'm kind of having a glitch at the middle that, okay, can we set, in terms of the grid system, can we set the size of the grid system, also determine this, also according to the one of the mobile app. There's a mobile web and there's a mobile app. So the grid can we use the same grid system for it?
Okay. First of all, the web version and the mobile version and the mobile application, sorry, they are two different things. We have the web for both desktop and mobile. Yes, you can create a grid system that takes care of both of them. You might not use exactly the same figures or values when creating your grid system, but you can create a systems that accommodates both the web and mobile. What I mean is when you're designing, and I do this a lot when I'm designing, and I'm using a particular grid system, especially grid system for like a desktop. Consciously, I am also in my mind creating this grid system for the mobile because I know how I want to make the mobile adapt to this particular grid system. So I can use that same system, but redefine its values for it to work for mobile. But then for mobile application, like to work for the mobile version of the web, but for mobile application is an entirely different ballgame for mobile applications. And in most cases, mobile application are more precise than web applications. So in many cases, it's not exactly the same content. It's not exactly the same strategy or path that the user uses to achieve this goal on the web that they uses on the mobile. So you really can't use exactly the same grid system, but you can use similar grid system for both the mobile and the web version when designing for web, but it's different for mobile applications. Seems like you still have something to say. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I was kind of being a bit careful. The column for a mobile view and the column for a mobile app. Since you said it's a bit different, is it on the column or the row? Understand, to know what is perfect for the app and for the web.
I didn't get the last part of that question.
Yes, I just want to know what's perfect. The column size. There's column and row in grid system. So the column, in terms of the mobile view, understand, the web, and there's on the other part of the mobile app. I was thinking maybe the column is different or still the same process we can use for both.
In most cases, they both change. Both the rows and column change, right? Because it's a web, it's a lot wider. You might have an increased number of columns, but when it's on the mobile, and maybe limited number of rows, but when it's on the mobile, you tend to have more rows and just use like a single column. So it can change. Definitely, the number of rows and column can change. But if it's done well, and when designing for the web and the mobile, when designing for the web version, if it's done well, you can use similar concepts that you're using for the web to achieve that of the mobile. Although the layouts of the rows and column might change, and in most cases it changes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Damilara, I hope that answered your question, and thank you, Femi, for answering Damilara's question. So, does anyone have any question? Please just use the hand raise icon. Okay, I can see Stella. Stella, please ask your question.
All right. So you mentioned that one thing we have to take note of while making a mobile design, that mobile application design, is when the user holds it in different direction. So what direction are you talking about? Like, do you mean portrait and landscape, or did you mean something else?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. Portraits and landscape.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Femi, for addressing Stella's question. So we still have enough time. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask your questions. Just use the hand raise icon, or you can type it in the message section, and then I'll just read out your question for you. So while we're waiting for people to come up with questions, ask questions right here with me. So Femi, I'll just ask you straight up. So the first question I have is Nubi is asking. I think she was here earlier. I don't know if she's asking what are the advantages and disadvantages of fast tracking design? I don't know what.
Hello?
Did you get the question?
Please come again.
I don't know if anyone else can hear me. I'm busy. My network is effing up again.
I can hear you, but it went off for.
But like, Femi, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So I said, Mercy Nubi is asking, what are the advantages and disadvantages of fast tracking design? I don't know if she's referring to mobile design, but I guess maybe like the mobile design. Femi, I don't. Okay, Mercy, are you here? She was here earlier, but I think
I was the one that asked that question.
Are you sure?
I'm not the one.
Okay. Let me check my sheet again. No, since you have rejected the question.
Oh, no,
But anyways, everybody. Let me move to the next question. Somebody is asking, what frame should you use when designing a mobile app for iOS and Android, given that all iOS and Android mobile devices will be able to access the application? This question is asked by Ayodeji Femi Fasa. This one, I'm sure it's Ayodeji that is asking this question. But Femi, do you understand the question?
Yeah, I do understand the question.
Okay,
I do
very
understand the
good.
question. I think I've had a number of people ask me a similar question. The thing is, there is no one size fits all actually, except you want to design for every single frame that Figma offers you. Regardless of the size you pick to design with, um, there's going to be little adjustment or differences in screen size for other devices. Let's say an Android device or the latest version of an Android device. There's always going to be that differences in screen size. Even coming to an iOS device, an iOS mobile device, you still have the iOS Max and all that. So in most cases, it's going to be the job of the developer if you're not going to be designing for all the screens, which is not really feasible. In most cases, it's going to be the job of the developer to make sure that whatever you design is scalable on all the screens. Although there are a few things you could do to make sure you guide the developer through the paths of making it really accessible for all different screens. And that's why there is the testing phase where you guys tend to test a lot of these designs on different devices before it moves to launch. But I personally, right? I choose to not use a bigger screen size because bigger screen sizes gives kind of not the best impression when developers are working with the figures on bigger screen sizes, like the size of the input field, the scale, and all of that. I tend to use a smaller screen size. That's why I use the iPhone 13 mini, which is like I think 375 by 812, so that it's easier to play safe with a smaller scale than when you go with a bigger scale, because a bigger scale has that tendency of making things very clustered if you're not careful. So I use the iPhone 13 mini for everything that has to do with iOS, but it doesn't mean that if it's not designed well, if it's not developed well, it's going to work perfectly with the latest version of Android phone that's way bigger. I think in most cases, especially in these parts of the world where we do the job like this, one size fits all, you just have to guide the developer through the parts of making very, very responsive for all the other devices. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you, Femi, for expatiating on that question. So the next one, I hope we are all coming up with questions, though, because the next one is by Huluwa Biggest. How do I include accessibility in my mobile design? This question is clear enough, right, Femi?
Yeah, I think we
Okay.
mentioned that on the slide. Accessibility basically has to do with people able to conveniently engage with your app, right? You don't use buttons that are too small so that people don't struggle. You don't use texts that are too small. I know that has to do with legibility, but still accessibility. If they can't get the information they need, you want to be able to improve in your empathy, like knowing what texts should be bigger than what should be emphasized, what should not. You will have to be able to improve
Oh,
on
okay,
your
Femi. Okay, Femi. For a moment, I think I stopped hearing Femi. Hey, I hope it's not my network. But Femi,
Can
were you
everyone
done
hear me?
answering the question?
Yeah.
I think
Can
I can
everyone
hear
Yes,
hear
we
you.
me
I
can
think
now?
I
hear
can
you,
hear you.
Femi.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear. I can hear you too.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Femi, for answering that question. So the last question I have, I can see some people already dropping their question, and I'm so happy. Thank you. I'll read that out very soon. The next question is, and the last one is, Taiwo is asking, how do I fix website mobile responsiveness? Is that question clear enough for me?
How do you?
Like, how do I fix how to fix website
Okay.
mobile responsiveness?
Hmm. Um, I'm finding it difficult to put that question in a scope, but fixing mobile or website responsiveness is understanding the grid format or the grid layout of the website, right? Is understanding how elements are being structured in that website and doing your best to structure that same layout in the mobile version and still make it accessible. So there are two ways that this is done, which is we all know the adaptive and the responsive way. The responsive way obviously lets you design a different layout for that website, and the adaptive way just lets you try to adjust what's on the existing large screen to fit in a smaller screen. So those are the two ways you could achieve that, and all this boils down to how you can properly use the grid and flex systems to rearrange your rows and column in ways that it still achieves the same goal and is very usable.
Okay, thank you, Femi, for asking that question. So, I'm done with my own round of questions with the questions I wrote out. So, first of all, if you don't want Trebisola and Nubi, I'll come to you. I just want to read out the questions that some people asked earlier before you raised your hand. So, don't worry, I'll just call you up to ask your question later. So, I can see Augustine is asking, what are the common mistakes designers make when designing for mobile? How can we avoid them?
And let's go back to the slide, but I'm just going to freestyle this from what I know. Um, the number one mistake I see is the use of white space. The use of spacing. It can really go a long way. Like just knowing how to properly use white space. Improving on that is going to really up your design game by a huge margin. And also understanding the web standard for accessible text. Next to spacing, the most frequent issues I see with designers is not using the proper text. I was on a friend's design some time ago, and I saw some font sizes for a web view of up to 9 pixels, and I was like, what exactly is going on here? And funny enough, there was no enough content on it, and you tend to use that with very little font size. It's not really helpful. I think scaling up your font size, looking at the web standard for mobile is 14, for web is 16, but even if you want to go small, you can still go 14 pixel for web, which is still acceptable, but you also want to consider your target audience. 14 pixel more might be very readable for younger people, but a little difficult for older people. So you still want to consider that. But studying the web standard for most of this is really important. So understanding the perfect sizes of fonts to use and also spacing are two really key important aspects where you can easily improve your designs if studied properly.
Okay, thank you, Femi. Thank you, Femi, for answering that question. So I'll move to the second one. Precious is asking, hi, good. She's asking, while designing, is using grids compulsory, or can we do without it?
Um, Yeah, you can totally do without it. You can totally do without it. Up till not until a certain point in my design journey was I actually taking the use of grid a little serious. And as long as you can create a design that is easily um, replicated for the mobile screen, which is easily responsive or adaptive on mobile screen, you are good because not really anybody would come and ask you if you use grid or not. But when you're working with a larger team and you're working on a larger product, there might be rules and guidelines. And some of these things, knowing how to use some of these things will just improve your game. Right? It also keeps you in check. If you're trying to do this without the use of grid,
Oh,
you will
okay.
definitely get it done, but following a predefined set of rules to get it achieved is obviously a better way. So the answer is yes, you can do without grid and still get perfect results, but it's more professional to use grid, especially when you're working with larger products. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Femi. She's saying thank you. So that answered her question. That answered her question. So let me see the next one. Damila is saying you should please share your slides on Figma. Yeah, so I'll leave that to you,
Um,
Femi.
the slide was
Yeah.
actually made on
So
Canva,
also Ufed.
but I would
Oh, okay.
share on Figma.
Okay, thank you for granting that request, Femi. So the next question I have here is from Ufedo. Ufedo is asking, can you please suggest ways to represent a table with more than 7 columns when viewed on web on a mobile screen? Femi, is that question clear enough?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. Tables for mobile. There are two ways you can go about this. It's actually a challenge I used to have until I just like created a rule around it. If you really want to present those data on mobile, you're not going to use an actual table with 7 columns. If maybe the client or whoever is the owner of those products insists to leave the tables in those 7 columns, they will also need to understand that that page would have to be looking like a web page on a mobile. And what I mean is you have to be able to scroll to the right and scroll to the left on that particular page. If it's fine with them, which is not the best user experience, you can go with that. But you can also turn your tables to a list of cards, um, maybe small rectangular cards where you can just quickly display those informations on the row of the table. And most times that is what I do. I tend to make them in card format, and it shows maybe the first 10 or something. But yeah, that is another way you could represent your table. Else, using the table formats normally, we all know what um, comes with that, which is not the best. Or if that's what the clients want, fine. So using a card format is another way to represent your table on mobile.
Okay. I don't know if anyone else can hear me, but I've stopped hearing Femi. Is it just me on my network? Did someone should drop something?
It's your network. Is anyone hearing me?
Can you?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear both of you actually.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
Okay. Okay, that means it's my network then. Kai. Oh. Sorry, Femi, please carry on. Carry on. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, I've actually completely seen what I want, except if there's any other question or the person who asked the question needs more clarification. I see Olamide raising his hand. I think you can ask a question.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's Olamide here. I can see. Sorry, Mercy has been raising her hand. Mercy, Nubia, and Febisola. They're raising their hands earlier. Sorry, Olamide. Okay. I just like them to like go first since their hands were like up first. I just want to do this accordingly.
Yeah, I'm already speaking.
So is that fine with you, Olamide?
Yeah. Should I continue?
Yes, you can continue. Like it was already.
Okay. I just want to say, is it possible for us to get the recordings of this meeting since it's been recorded?
Please, can you like speak a little louder? I can barely hear you.
Sorry, what did you say?
I can barely hear you.
Okay, I said, is it possible for us to get the recordings of this Google Meet since it's been recorded?
I think Fatima is in the best place to answer that.
The thing is, my network is like very, very bad here, and I can barely hear anybody. I guess Femi was asking, saying I was in the best place to do something. I didn't hear the last part.
Yeah, he's requesting for the recordings of the session.
Okay, yeah, the recording. This session is recorded, and it will be available on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type Pexels, and will pop up. You see, aside this session, every of our DDS session is always recorded, and we always put up the recording there. It's available for you to download and watch whenever you want to. So I think my network is doing better now. So I'll move to Mercy. Mercy, your hands have been up. Please, you can ask your question.
Okay, thank you, Fatima. Thank you, John. I really learned a lot, yeah. But my question is not really is someone related to what you taught, yeah. My question is about if for example now you get something like someone reach out to you, right, and like he wants to build or he wants to like redesign a website, right, on a laptop screen for laptop version, then for mobile version and for tablets. Yes. Okay. The question now is that my question is based on money share. Like how much can you charge for such a job? So that's my question.
Okay. Pricing is actually quite different for a lot of people, but there are certain things you put into consideration when you're charging or when you're giving someone a price. Number one is your time, right? So you know how much your time is worth, you know what you're doing. If you're to do a project for 3 months, if you're not doing that project for that 3 months, what would you have used that time for? Would you have earned certain amounts of money? So that's one thing you put into consideration. Another thing is the complexity of the solution, whatever they are trying to solve. The complexity of the solution, is it an existing product? Do we have market competitors where you can look at existing model and quickly get ideas? Is it a completely new product where you have to completely brainstorm on how they are going to serve their audience? So just the complexity of it actually is another key thing that you're going to look at for. Yeah, also the number of screens they are designing for web, mobile, and the tablet is also something you put into consideration. That means there's going to be a large number of pages across all these devices. You also consider that. So it kind of varies for different people, and how much I would price will totally be different from how much you would price, but these are some of the things you would want to consider when picking someone the price.
Thanks, thank you. But tell me, like, okay, like, just how much will you price? Like, how much? That's like, please, no. Just,
Okay, for here now, you've given me like number of devices you want: a tablet, mobile, and web, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, how complex is this solution you're trying to solve?
okay, how complex?
Yeah.
I've not really like checked the whole this thing because I think
Just give a random figure. Something close, just a guess.
let me say five or six.
Okay, 5 or 6. Are there existing products that look like that same solution?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, because of this, if I am going to charge my own charge, I can take like 1.5 million naira. These prices vary for different people actually, and obviously they are very negotiable. So, yeah, I hope that gives you a template to work with.
Okay. Let me ask it like this: if like the person that chatted me up was like he has already designed it before, but he's not to his taste. Do you understand? Like, so he needs some changes. So that's what he said.
Well, I already gave you a figure, so maybe every other situation that comes, you can consider then renegotiating with them and maybe cutting it off from there. But I can't specify, but what I said is like the range that I will charge personally based on the information you've given me, which can definitely still change if I get more clarity. But yeah, that's what it is.
Wow. Thank you, Sergio. That's just sir.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Femi. Thank you, Femi, for answering Lexi's question. So earlier I saw Febison and Ajiwole's hand up. I don't know. Do you guys still want to ask your question? Febison, are you still here? Ajiwole, are you still here? I don't know if they are both here. Please, okay, I can see Fedos.
Hi, good evening, Femi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to ask the question earlier about representing tables on mobile. I did hear the part where you talked about representing it in tab format, but I did not really understand, and I was hoping you would shed a little more light on that so I can, get more clarity on it.
Did you say tab format?
Yes, you said
No, I didn't say
representing.
tab. I said card. Yeah, I said card actually. I'm going to take.
Card.
Yeah, I'm going to take an example. An example is let's say bill payments app, for instance, and you have like a table where you have this transaction history thing. You can use that and do like a little transaction history card. It doesn't have to be an actual card showing all its borders. It can be in a list format. All you just need to do is have a little list of the items in that card, make it as minimal or as small in height as possible so that it can contain as many as possible. But definitely in a list format or in a card format works when you're presenting like table-like data for mobile applications.
Oh, okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. Do we have any other person asking questions?
Okay, Feby, so now I can see your hands up. Sorry, Ufedo, I hope Femi was done answering your question. I apologize again. My network is not making me to be at par with what's going on. But like, if you are,
Yeah,
if
he was. He has
Ufedo,
answered the
if
question.
Femi is
Thank
done
you.
answering Ufedo's question, Femi, so like you can ask your question since your hand is up.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And thank you, John, for that great class. Yeah, great class. Okay, so I'm new when it comes to UI UX and all this mobile design. Okay, my question is, last class we had, there's something about like we're told something about native and responsive web design, like using native mobile app design and responsive web design. So I want to ask, how well does these two work together? Like, can they be used together when it comes to designing mobile app? So that's my question. I would love if you can just explain, like give me brief summary, Abby, like summary on native mobile app and responsive, and if they can actually work together when it comes to mobile app design. Thank you.
Okay, first, there are two different concepts. I think I touched on this earlier with someone who asked a question earlier. Responsive mobile apps are different from native mobile apps. Native mobile apps are those applications you go to App Store or Play Store to install. Those are your native mobile applications. So like you go to your Play Store and your App Store to install them on your phone. They are built to be a mobile application. Now, responsive mobile app are not gotten from Play Store. It's basically you accessing the web from your mobile view. So it's like going to I don't know, facebook.com from your browser on your mobile phone, right? It's different from hitting on facebook.com, Facebook app on your phone. It's like installing Facebook app, that's the native Facebook application. Then going to facebook.com on your mobile phone, it's like the responsive version of the Facebook website. I don't know if that answers your question. And yes, they can work together. A lot of people use this in combination. And this is because they both have quite different purposes, right? We all know that the website is easily accessible. Right? You don't need to have a mobile application. You can just go to the website using your laptop or whatever device you have and achieve what you want. But in this case, the native applications have some specific personalized features. For example, now you take a boat ride and the boat automatically picks your location. Those functionalities are from native application functionalities. Let's say maybe you're getting notified based on where you are. So like notification feature now most times works as a native functionality. I know notification features can be but it's not as seamless. Apps are closer to the user. They are very personal. So yes, most times they work together. They can work together based on what you're trying to achieve, depending on the solution you're building for your target audience.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you. My question here is kind of funny. Okay, before my network had this thing stopped. So there's this, I don't know who asked this question about how much you can charge. And I'm not supposed to ask now because I'm new to this thing. I'm just starting. But what's the amount she scaled it 5 or 6. So what's the amount you said? Like what was the amount you told her that we can ask or bill? I'm so sorry, but I just need an answer. Now I was not in class.
It's fine. I told her 1.5 million. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Is there anyone asking?
Okay. Thank you, Femi, for answering these questions. My network, I apologize again for my network. So I can see Augustine. Augustine typed a question earlier in the message section. So I'll just call him up to ask his question. Augustine, please go ahead. Augustine, can you hear me?
Good evening. Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Chief, for your input. But I want to ask, it's still on pricing. Sorry, give me a second. Let me just be quiet.
Okay, it's like things are not clear on Augustine's end though, because it's like, okay, he's back now.
Sorry, what I want to ask is still on pricing. How do you go about
Can anyone
as a 2B designer? You're trying to design an app. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello? Okay, yeah, I'm okay. There's this project I'm currently working on getting, but it's more like the project has 3 apps designed in one project. They want you to incorporate a logistic application, a hotel booking application, and a real estate booking application in one. So how do you go about the pricing, or rather, how do I come up with the quota? More like things I'm going to be delivering, and then the pricing.
I've talked about what you need to consider. There's other factors that might determine your pricing, but I've talked about what you need to consider earlier to be able to give the price. But then you also need to get what exactly you're doing, the list of features, and every single thing that you need to design on the app. So once you have that, you can use some of the things I talked about, which is the complexity of the app and your time, what you think your time is worth, to analyze how much you charge. Was that helpful?
Okay. Okay, Femi, are you done answering the question?
Yeah, I'm done answering the question.
Okay, I didn't even. Thank you, Femi, for answering that question. So I can see 2 more questions, and I think that's like the last we'll just take. I can see this one from Precious and the other one from Onyechi. So I'll just go with Precious first and then Onyechi. So Precious is asking, how do you think a person should properly deal with imposter syndrome as a designer?
Yeah, imposter syndrome is something that comes up a lot all the time. And every time I get asked this question, I tend to just say you can't deal with it. You just have to put your head down and keep doing what you're doing. Like nobody is done with imposter syndrome. At this stage of my career, I still feel imposter syndrome because there's going to still be a lot of things to achieve. You're still going to have questions. You're still going to grow. You're still going to get better. So at every point that you try to learn something new, you're still going to feel that way of if this is actually right for you. And no matter how far you get, there's still going to be a lot of things to learn. So you don't deal with it. It's not something you just deal with and it's gone. It's just whenever you feel that way, just tell yourself that it's all right, but it shouldn't let you be discouraged, or it shouldn't have a negative impact on your career because you're having a process job. Just know that every single person feels this somehow. Just don't bank on it. Don't think too much about it. Just keep moving, and it gets better with time.
Okay, thank you, Femi. Thank you. So, Precious, we have our design digest session coming up on 19th of this month, and our speaker is going to talk expressively about, like, the topic is tackling imposter syndrome. So if that is something we all deal with, so you shouldn't miss that session. She's going to talk about it extensively. Yeah. So I will go to the next question now from Onyechi. Onyechi is asking, please, as a startup, how do you go about getting jobs online and steps on building online value and branding? But before Femi answers this question, I'd just like to say I think we're kind of even deviating from our main topic, fast tracking mobile. We're deviating from our topic about mobile design. But anyways, I'll still take these questions because I know this is a forum where we get to like ask our questions, and this is where we get our questions addressed. So, John, I'll take that question again. Please, as a startup, how do you go about getting jobs online and steps on building online value and branding?
We can't hear you. Can you just turn on your speaker?
Oh, okay. I said that question is kind of confusing. What exactly do
Okay,
you
I
mean
think Femi is
by
like you're on mute. Thank you for unmuting.
what exactly do you mean by as a startup? Like a startup company or a startup designer?
Yeah, a startup designer.
Oh, okay. Okay. The most common and most obvious way people make this work is practicing, and not just practicing, like strategic practicing, where you look at products around you, pick a few things that you feel can be improved upon, make your research, and create a solution around that thing. Just practicing creating a solution around it, and sharing your solution to the world. You don't have to be right. You don't have to create the world best solution. It doesn't even have to make sense, right? Most of the times, recruiters or people who will be interested in your service just want to see how you think about solving problems, not necessarily the results of the problem itself. So just look around you, pick a solution, design for it, just to keep practicing and to get better in both your hands-on practice and your thinking process. While you're doing that, aesthetically present your work all the time and share your designs, network, and definitely with time, if you're consistent with these things, with time, you're definitely going to start getting reach outs and people will be interested in your service.
Okay, yeah, that was helpful. To add to the question I asked, like, is there any specific social media platform that you would like advise us to like focus on when practicing and sharing our works?
Yeah. For starters, we do have some of the like biggest design communities. We have the Dribbble and the Behance and all, but while doing that, uploading on like the design communities, you also want to focus on aspects where you could most likely get job, right, which is LinkedIn. You also want to make sure you're posting your thoughts process, you're posting your designs on LinkedIn, as well as posting up your designs on design platforms, just to have all of them in one place and increase your portfolio. So yeah, design platforms, Dribbble, Behance, LinkedIn. There are a whole number of those things out there, and you can always look out and see what the world is adapting to. It might be those three today, but it might be something else tomorrow. Also, Twitter, there's a lot of people doing it on Twitter. You could, if it's something you're very active with, just make sure you're sharing your work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Femi, for answering Onye's question. Thank you so much. So the last one is Kayode is asking, how best can a new designer scale up?
I think that question is very similar to what Onyechi just asked. So the response kind of works for both. To get better, to scale up, you just need to keep practicing strategically. Don't just design random stuff that really don't have meaning. Those things work, especially when you're very early in the process, when you're not so focused on the thought process behind it, because these things are stages. In the very beginning, you will just want to get your hands really good with the designs. Then you start improving how you think about what you're designing. So you want to strategically practice properly, and then keep posting and keep networking up to the point where you get to start getting.
Okay, thank you so much, Femi. Thank you so much, Femi, for. I hope you're done answering that question. I hope I didn't interrupt.
Yeah, I'm done. I just wanted to say, while you're networking, don't just network with only designers, also network with developers, because most of them could also hook you up. So the entire tech field itself, you try as much as possible to network and share your designs to everybody, friends and family.
Okay. Thank you so much, Femi. So we've come to the end of the session. Thank you once again for taking out time to be here, Femi. And you were really patient. This is like almost 8:30 and you took your time to answer everyone's question. We appreciate you for that, Femi. Mercy, I can see your hand up again. Mercy.
Yes, please. I want to say something. Sorry, please, Femi. You said networking, right? Can you drop your number so we can, have your contact? So, seeing someone talked about imposter syndrome. Maybe like senior designer, something like that can be like a push, for us. So like Agba. So we are learning and following. So something like that. That's just.
Mercy, you know what? Sorry, Femi, let me just respond. Mercy, I like your energy, but I was going to come to that. I was going to ask Femi to drop his LinkedIn, the link to his LinkedIn profile, Twitter profile, and all of that, so we can all follow him there. Mercy, asking for his phone number is a little too, you get. So please, Femi, please drop. Can you please drop the link to your LinkedIn and your Twitter profile, so we can just like follow you there, and you can also drop your Behance and your Figma. Am I correct? And Dribble link too. Just anything that can help the designers, the young designers, they just follow you and then learn from you directly or indirectly. And please, when you drop the link to his, he's dropping it now. When you drop the link, please don't go and bombard his DM with questions. Just please be very subtle and what's the word about it, please. Thank you. So Jude, I can see your hand up. Jude, can you hear me? I could see you raise your hand, but okay. I don't know if you had any. I don't know if you wanted to add something.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I was speaking. I was just trying to remind Femi that he promised us he's going to do one giveaway or something like that. So I was expecting the giveaway,
Okay, yeah, I wanted to ask a question. And I'm definitely going to give something to whoever answers it correctly. And the question is this: the first design pattern or the first design style that was introduced by Apple. The first design pattern that was introduced by Apple, and the first design pattern that was introduced by Microsoft. Who can give me the name and the thoughts behind it? The name and the meaning. It was designed for their mobile phones, actually, when they started.
Okay, should I answer?
Go ahead.
Hello, can I answer?
Go ahead.
Okay, so it's called Model View Controller, MVC. And MVC is a software architectural pattern that separates an application into three interconcatenated components: the model, the view, and the controller. So the model represents the data and basic logic of the application. The view is responsible for presenting the user interface and displaying the data, while the controller acts as an intermediary between the model and the view, handling the user inputs and updating the model and view as necessary.
Okay, well done. Well done. I understand where you're coming from, but I think I asked the question wrong. I meant the first design system that was introduced, just like the way we have the Material UI for Google right now. Apple first had theirs, then Microsoft had theirs. They both have a name that it was called, like the type of design system and how they presented their designs. The concept, it's called. That's what I meant. Okay, someone is using his hand. You can answer.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I think if you're talking about the concept Apple uses for their designs, I think they were the ones that introduced minimalist web design, sort of.
Yeah, but that was after. That was after some time. The very first one they used for iPhone, the very first iPhone, I think it's 2007.
Femi, this is your question. You carry weight. You carry weight, Femi. Jude. I like the way you just the way you expatiated on that your answer and Ufedo. Your answer was just Femi, please, what is now the correct answer to this your question? Okay, but just before you answer, does anyone want to try like to answer this question? Because it's Femi's question. It's like I don't think anybody. I don't think anybody. Okay.
So I don't really know much about it. Sorry, but can you hear me?
I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, but I don't know for Microsoft. For Microsoft, is the name of the design system Fluent Design System? Because I think I've heard something about that, but I don't really know how it works anyway. So is it Fluent? I mean, for Microsoft.
Yeah, for Microsoft, that is it. But it's the design concept I was actually talking about, not the name of the design system.
Okay. So Femi, this is the last. Does anyone have the answer to Femi's question?
No, I mean,
Okay.
I don't know the answer. I've been trying to check online. I can't.
I think for like they have this simplicity in mind for them to have a clean and neat, sophisticated look, like their design, the product, to have a
True, but you're looking
minimalistic
at where they are currently. If you're looking at where they are currently, we are looking at where they started. I'm talking about the very first release of the first iPhone. there is a certain way they designed that iPhone, and there was a concept they had in mind when they were bringing that first mobile phone to market, as well as the Microsoft operating system that Nokia used and the rest initially. Anybody else want to try?
Let me try the last time.
I want to try too.
Okay, so I guess they were using graphical user interface (GUI), and this concept they made use of icons, windows, and menus to represent files, folders, and applications. I don't know if I got that right.
Yeah, you're kind of very close. I'm just going to help you. Yeah, they used those things to represent those icons. But the concept in which they did that, like, why did they use those things to represent those icons? There was a thought process behind that. And what is that concept called?
Is it telepod, a telephone and iPod?
Come again.
Is anyone saying something?
Okay, so since he has like broken it down, I searched online, I should not lie to you. Then I saw something like a desktop metaphor, and desktop metaphor was a departure from the traditional command line interface used by most computers at the time, which required users to type in text commands to interact with the computer. I don't know if I'm getting it.
I think you're thinking too much about this. It's really not that deep.
Or let's just say the concept behind it was large touch screen interface.
Okay, let me just break this down. When many of these mobile phones were released, they were first released into the market. What they tried to do is they wanted to make real item, like real objects, identifiable in the mobile phones. For example, a trash can in real life will be used as an icon in the mobile phone. That's an actual trash can will be used as an icon in the mobile phone, just so that the user can easily identify these things. Like a calculator, for instance, will look like exactly like a calculator on the mobile phone. The concept of doing this is what, like making real life objects identical in mobile devices, just for easy recognition.
Okay, Femi. Thank you for breaking down that your question down for us. Thank you so much. So please, we want to please let's celebrate Femi in a Texas way. Femi has taken his time out to address every single person. Yeah, please let's drop as many emojis as we can for Femi, please. Thank you, Femi, for being patient with us. We appreciate you so much. We thank you. Thank you for coming.
It's
So
okay, sorry, before you go, I want to ask for me, is it called skeuomorphism?
yeah, it is, but you're right actually, but I'm very sorry, there's no gift for you. We have already answered the question even before you get it.
Oh.
But for your attempts, you can drop your account number and let me compensate you. You tried in answering the questions.
About me.
Hey, Femi, thank you. See, Jude, now you are going to get something. Can you people see? Thank you so much, Femi. Wow, that's nice. So, okay, Jude has dropped his account number, sharp. Femi, have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. So we've come to the end of the session. So just like you all know, we hold our Design Digest sessions every first Sundays and third Sundays of the month. So please, we would appreciate it if you can share our sessions with your friends, with your family, that are in the UI UX space, and even though they are not aspiring or just junior designers, they can just come and learn. And you see now, Jude now has won something. Jude now has won something. So it can be you next time. It can be you. And for our next session, we'll be talking about tackling imposter syndrome. I think it was Onyechi that asked that. Oh, am I right? I know someone asked a question on imposter syndrome. So please just do well to join next time. Just do well to join the next session because we'll be talking extensively about that. So once again, thank you so much, Femi, for coming here to be with us. Thank you so much. And Femi has dropped the link to his Twitter and LinkedIn profile. Do well to connect with him. Do
Oh,
well to follow him. Okay.
before I forget, I'm also going to drop a link to my YouTube channel. You guys can learn a thing or two from my YouTube channel.
Okay, Femi, please drop the link. Please drop the link. So Femi is going to drop the link to his YouTube channel, so you can subscribe to his channel on YouTube, and then you learn lots of things from there. All these questions, all your questions will be addressed there. So he has dropped it already. Please do well to follow him. And some people asked for the recording of the session. Yeah, this session is recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel too. So you can do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can watch the recording at your convenience and download it whenever you want. And that being said, I want to also thank each and every one of you for coming to today's session. Thank you for making our time to be here. We all know the way the country is. Everybody's busy or just, I don't know, this country is just turning on its own. But you just made our time to be here, and we appreciate you for doing so. And like I said earlier, don't forget to spread the word about our sessions. So good night, everyone. Thank you so much, Femi, once again for being patient with us and for answering our questions. Thank you so much. Have a
You're welcome.
wonderful week. Thank you, Femi. Please have a wonderful week, everyone. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night. Please don't end the space now. Hey. This is what I checked what's best.
Sorry, Mercy.
Yes?
Did you get the um
Yes,
um
I got it. Thank you.
all right. Good night.
Yeah,
Take
good
care.
night. Yeah, you too. Bye.
Okay, Temi and Andy, please can you leave the call? We are done with the session. Thank you very much. Temi, can you hear me? Temi and Andy, can you hear me? If you can hear me, please, you can leave the call now. Thank you.